So as an update to my Elgato Keylight review that I just posted a few days ago, I got a hold of Elgato through email and they said to send them some information and then they would transfer it over to the customer service department and then they would handle it. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, if they're just going to send me a new pole or if I'm going to have to send it back and then they'll send me a new one or what, but at least the wheels are in motion, so that's good. Anyway, let's get on to the subject of the actual video. Go ahead and roll the thing. Hey guys, Sean here. So there has been a bit of a shakeup in my life, and I can't exactly talk about what all has happened, what is happening, just for reasons. But the main point of what is happening is the D&D group that I am in is losing the Dungeon Master. Now, as I have mentioned D&D many times on here and talked about it, I've done 2 videos about D&D and Critical Role. You can watch the D&D one here. It's basically the history of D&D and the history of Geek and Sundry. And then you can watch the one that is the history of Critical Role. That is the part 2 of that. That's why I'm doing this longer, so there's enough time for both videos to appear in the card. And I did a few other about my own personal D&D experience. So the main point that I'm getting at is, if you watched any of those videos, you realize that probably the most important person in any D&D group is the Dungeon Master, because that's the person that runs everything. That's the person that is basically in charge of the game. That's the person that makes everything happen. So without a Dungeon Master, we can't really continue playing D&D. And so everyone in the group is pretty much making me do it now. So what the plan is that over the next few weeks before our DM takes his leave, we will be hopefully finishing off a truncated version of the story that he had written. And as I said before, he completely created his own campaign from scratch, the story that's happening in it, the world, and pretty much everything about it. And then the plan is to hopefully be at level 5 and move into a pre-made one by Wizards of the Coast. And the reason that we want it to be level 5 is because we want to do this one right here. This is Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. This is not the most recent adventure that has come out for Dungeons & Dragons, but it is the, I believe, second most recent, because the most recent one is the one that takes place in the Magic the Gathering universe. So the first major thing that's going to have to happen is our current DM and I are going to have to sit down and figure out, okay, so how are we going to go from this made-up world that you've come up with and transfer our entire group into the world that is the official Dungeons and Dragons world, which is known as the Forgotten Realms, because things are different between the two worlds. So essentially what's going to happen is, at the end of whatever his last session is, the group is going to get sucked into a portal, because that's the easiest. And at the beginning of the next session, they will get out of the portal into the Forgotten Realms, and then I will be the Dungeon Master from that point. So what exactly does that mean? That means I have to run everything. I have to create the encounters. Well, actually, I don't have to create anything because it's all right here in this book. And essentially the story of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage is that there is this mountain that has a crazy dungeon in it that is essentially a fortress inside the mountain. And it is 23 levels deep. So let's just quickly take a look here. So here you can see this is the first dungeon there, and you can't really see all of the little squares within this thing, but like, so this thing here is 4x4 squares. So each square is about the size of a miniature. It's the base of it. That goes to show you just how big this is. So like this 4x4 here, that could hold 16 miniatures in it. So that goes to show you how big this whole map is. So it's going to take a long time to get through this book. And basically what this book tells you is, so like every single room in this dungeon here, it tells you what's in every single room. There's monsters in this room, or there's treasure in this room, and it tells you what treasure's in there and how to find it and all that stuff. So I don't really have to come up with too much stuff. I basically just have to organize the stuff that's in here and then fill in the gaps. So while I don't necessarily have a ton of D&D experience, I mean, I've only played so much over the last few months because we did the first campaign, which was, I believe, 10 sessions, and then we have now been working on the second campaign, which I think just had its 10th session. So that's like 80 hours maybe total, give or take, of total D&D playing. However, I have watched every episode of Critical Role's current campaign, and they just had their 50th episode last night, and each episode is roughly 3.5 to 4, sometime even one time 5 hours. So, and yeah, as I said, there's 50 of those. So I've watched a lot of D&D being played by arguably the best D&D group in the world. So yes, I'm a little nervous, but I'm also pretty excited, and I figured eventually I would end up DMing a campaign. I just didn't know it would be so soon. And this one seems like it's a good one to start with because of how straightforward it is. And so yeah, that book is designed to start with characters who are level 5 and go all the way to level 20, which is the max level. And as I said in one of my previous videos, to get to level 20 can take years. So we'll see if we actually do end up reaching the end of this. So yeah, that is the latest from my D&D life. So it's also kind of interesting because, so Anna Brisbane, aka Brizzy Voices, who is the YouTuber I have met the most, the YouTuber I have interacted with the most in the last, 4 or 5 years? Because I first met her like 4 years ago, I think. Anyway, she also got into Dungeons & Dragons at the same time that I did, which was the beginning of last year. And she has also gotten hardcore into it, as I have. Although she, being a famous YouTuber, has been able to play on the official Dungeons & Dragons Twitch stream in a show that they did. So she of course has one-upped everything because she has the fame to back it up. But she has also recently started doing her own DMing in her own home campaign. So it's kind of interesting how our Dungeons & Dragons lives are kind of going along with each other. It'll be fun to talk to her about the next time I see her at a convention, which I'm sure I will run into her at one at some point this year. But anyway, that's going to do it for this week's video. Let me know in the comments down below if you've played D&D. Have you dungeon mastered in D&D? Where's a good place to look for tips on how to D&D? Although I already know the answer to that because Matt Mercer has put hundreds of D&D tip videos on Geek and Sundry, and I could watch those probably for hours and hours and hours, although I don't have hours and hours and hours because I need that time to be working on organizing everything for this campaign, because I have like 4 or 5 weeks to get everything ready. And while you're down there, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, and if you'd like to see more of the crazy crap that goes on around here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and if you'd like to help support the crazy crap that goes on around here, go ahead and hit up my Patreon. Link is in the description. And with that, have a good however long it is until you watch my next video.